thank you for tuning in. Right now we have a special guest. His name is David Wall. He's a certified home inspector with Pillar to Post, serving the Durham region. And today we're going to talk about mold in the house. So allow me to welcome my guest, David. David, would you mind starting us off by telling our viewers who you are, what your qualifications are, what you do, and why you're here talking about this topic?
Well, it will. Dave Wall from Pillar to Post Home Inspections. We own the Pillar to Post in Durham region since 1995. I have a Bachelor of Science from Trent University. I'm also an indoor air quality auditor. So if you go to the CMHC website and look up indoor air quality auditors, you'll find our name there, because sometimes people have issues with their houses that are not related to a real estate transaction.
Really?
So we'll actually go in and try to help them solve a problem. A lot of times it's something that a doctor has said to them, and have you had your house looked at? Well, that's a service that we offer. Yeah, that's outside of a real estate transaction. It's called an indoor air quality audit,
Okay.
and it's done under the Canada Mortgage Housing, the CMHC protocol.
Okay. And how long have you been a home inspector?
Been with Pillar Post since 1995, registered home inspector since 1995, building code qualified, member of the OBOA. So, we do a written report for clients, and we do pre-listing inspections, purchase inspections, and as I said to you, the indoor air quality audits if somebody does have an indoor air quality issue, and mold is one of those issues. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get right into the topic for today, which is mold in the house. So let's start off with the basics. What is mold, and why should we be concerned about it?
Well, first thing with mold is mold's everywhere. So it's outside, it's in this room, it's in my house, it's in your house.
Okay.
Where it can be problematic is where it gets to the point where it starts to bother you. And that can be the type of mold that bothers you, or it can be the amount of mold that bothers you.
So type in the amount of mold.
Yeah. So from a home inspector standpoint, I could almost eat mold; it wouldn't bother me. I have other clients that if they have a little bit of mold, it bothers them.
Okay.
So the nice thing about Canada Mortgage Housing is they have information available online, free of charge. If you just go to the website cmhc.ca and look up mold in houses, it shows clients, my clients, your clients, and even people that are have concerns about mold, shows them how to take care of it and when they should seek professional help.
Okay, okay. And as part of the services that you offer, you'll be able to find or identify, like what is it in the services that you offer that would help a homeowner or a home purchaser with regards to mold?
Well, and I'll give you a great example. We just did a house. Client had lived in the house. A vendor had lived in the house for 12 years. Literally never gone up into the attic. Had two attics in the house, and we went up into the attic, and both of them were black. So they had significant mold issues in the house. As I said to you, the CMHC guide tells people, well, if you have an area that's moldy, a meter by a meter, most healthy Canadians can take care of that.
Right.
If you have two attics full of mold, you need professional help with that.
I see.
So we would recommend a contractor that deals with mold remediation, and there's lots of good ones in the GTA. So we have 3 names on the top of our list that we feel confident giving out those names if somebody has a client, especially if they need professional repair.
So homeowners and home purchasers that would call you for a home inspection service, and you find out that they do require someone to look after the mold in the house, you would be able to provide them with references or referrals to other professionals.
Exactly, and that's really what we did on that particular house. But that's the extraordinary.
Okay.
Most people, especially at this time of year, they're coming in and out of the showers, and the windows have been closed up all winter. So there's a little bit of mold in the shower, or maybe there's a little bit of mold in the window. Is that a really big problem? Well, the answer is no.
No. Okay.
Most people can use normal household detergents and clean that mold. And so long as you are ventilating, open the window to ventilate, having a good cleaning regimen, and trying to keep things as dry as possible, mold needs moisture to grow.
Right.
It needs something to eat. and it needs a certain temperature, certain humidity. And this is the time of year when we, have had our houses all closed up all
Right.
winter, and now it's starting to warm up a little bit, and
So
those
the
are pretty
it's the
good.
perfect recipe for mold.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of mold, are there different types of mold? Is this mold, or what can you tell us from your experience of working with houses that have mold?
Well, I mean, there's literally, 100,000 different species of mold.
Okay.
So you can't tell, and it can go from, some people say, well, only black mold is bad. That's just not the case.
You can't. Okay.
You can't tell, and sometimes you'll have a white mold, and it can be anything from efflorescence, which is that salty material if the basement leaks a little bit,
Right.
to an actual white mold. So you really can't tell by looking at it if it's mold. On the other side of it, sometimes you'll have black on the ceiling,
Mm-hmm.
and people will call you for mold, and it's not mold, it's soot, because soot will attach to the colder floor joists and
Right.
to nail heads. So sometimes people will call you for mold, it's not mold at all, it's soot because they burn a lot of candles. So
Mhm.
can't really tell by looking at it. If we just were going into a house and somebody said, I need to know if it's mold,
Right.
then we would do either a swab test or a tape lift test, or
Mhm.
send in a bulk sample to a lab.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about $150 to do that with
Okay.
the lab report, and that'll tell you what type of mold that you're dealing with.
Okay. Now, would you be able to dispel some myth based on your experience working with home purchasers? Because I've worked with home purchasers where even if they just see one speck of what they think is mold, they already don't want to look at the house. Would you be able to dispel some myths about just seeing maybe a speck of black stuff on the ceiling? Is it really dangerous, life-threatening, or something like that?
It's really not.
Okay.
And most people, when you explain to them that mold's everywhere, it's ubiquitous, it's outside, inside, in my house, in your house,
Mm-hmm.
most people kind of get that.
Okay.
And if you say to them, listen, in your bathroom, you're probably going to have a little bit of that around your tub as well. Most people get that.
Okay.
If they go running screaming to the car because there's a little bit of mold on the ceiling,
Yeah.
there's probably other things that are wrong. But if you do have a little bit of mold on your ceiling, that good housekeeping, good ventilation is going to take care of most of that.
Okay. Okay. Now, in the home inspection industry, have there any advances in technology right now in your toolbox that would be able to detect mold where you couldn't 10 years ago?
Oh no, absolutely. So now we have the equipment that if somebody needs a swab sample, we're ready to do that. If somebody needed an air sample, which the only time that you would take air samples would be a situation where you had an inkling that maybe the house had been used as a marijuana grow-op.
I see.
That you get up into the attic and maybe you see some ducts that don't make any sense. You see that there's been some modifications around the electrical panel. Then you might do an air test. Or if there was a known event in the house, so if you know that the house flooded,
Mm.
or you know that there was some sort of event, that the basement flooded or the plumbing, in those cases you might do an air test, but you certainly would not do that as part of a normal home inspection.
Okay.
Now, some people are more allergic to mold than other people.
Right.
So for some people, they'll have an allergic reaction. So the nose is a little running, a little bit of a cough. Other people, it's much more serious. So for instance, some molds are related to some fairly serious conditions.
Right.
So taking a sample is not a bad idea. Say, am I dealing with aspergillus, which is a fairly common mold,
Mm-hmm.
or am I dealing with stachybotrys, which can be a toxic mold?
Okay.
So sometimes that little swab test can tell you an awful lot about what type of mold that you're dealing with.
Okay. Now, would you be able to give our viewers some tips and tricks or some regular maintenance that they can do in the house, whether it be winter when the whole house is locked up and windows are closed, especially now we're getting into the warm weather, just regular maintenance that they can do in order to prevent the growth of mold?
Yeah. In the bathrooms in particular, up until about 1995, if you had a window in a bathroom, you didn't have an exhaust fan.
The vent, yes.
So if you have a bathroom exhaust fan, just use that. If you don't have one, look at a contractor putting one in for you. You're probably, under $1,000 to have a guy do everything you need to do to put an exhaust fan in, especially with a busy family.
Right.
That's going to help an awful lot. Some of the things that Pam does at our house is she'll take the screens off in the winter time so that if we get a bit of condensation on the windows, that it gives you the ability to wipe that up before it does get moldy.
I see.
We talked about just general housekeeping, and some products are a little bit better at cleaning mold than other products. So most detergents that you would buy for cleaning your house are going to be good for taking care of mold.
Okay.
And if it's dry, mold is not going to grow there.
I see.
So the drier that you can keep it, so the more ventilated that you can keep the space, mold is not going to propagate there.
Okay, so the key is well ventilated, as dry as it could possibly be, because when it's not ventilated and you have moisture, especially by the window in the washroom, that's the recipe for mold growth.
And it doesn't have to be a basement leak, so moisture can come in the way of excessive humidity, and if you keep your humidity level in your house below 55%, 55 is kind of the top end where, if you have that humidifier set at 65, then you're probably going to run into some condensation issues on windows and some mold issues.
Yes.
So moisture can be humidity, moisture can be just condensation. So, having a steamy shower hitting a cold window, condensation on the windows, and just what we talked about as far as keeping the basement dry. So good grading outside, good downspouts. If you have a small plumbing leak, fix that plumbing leak, because if you get mold underneath the cabinets and that type of thing, it can be much more problematic.
Okay. Personally, I experience in the shower, and especially in the living room where we have 2 fish tanks, it gives the humidity in the room is just unimaginable. And what I find is when it's cold outside, the inside of the glass window would sweat, and then at the bottom I would see some mold. What do you recommend how I can clean that? Can I just use Lysol or?
Well, a couple of things that you can do is that if you have a bathroom exhaust fan, because that warm air rises to the top, turn your bathroom exhaust fan, especially if it's going outside. So you're getting rid of that high humidity air at the top of the house.
Okay.
The condensation on the windows, you're just going to, because you'll find that that in the morning time that condensation is more than it is in the afternoon, because that sun hits it and warms it up. So some things that you can do is turning your furnace fan on, so it's not that the furnace is on, but the furnace fan is on, so it's ventilating that window. And where the heat vent is underneath the window, that air will wash the window, so it'll dry up that moisture that's at the window. So just just wiping it if you see that it's condensation, and just like any cleaner will any good detergent will do it. So Lysol is definitely one of them that would do it. Yeah.
Now you talked earlier about some clients may be more sensitive to mold than others.
Yeah.
What is your experience or knowledge about when you have kids or pets about mold?
Well, I don't know if it relates so much with kids and pets, but mold grows where there's high humidity.
Okay.
So I guess lots of laundry, dog bowls, those types of things will certainly contribute to that. Dogs aren't the cleanest things. We have two big dogs ourselves, so certainly housekeeping issues in and around those areas, and just kind of what we talked about is good ventilation. So opening a window, using an exhaust fan. On the newer houses, that switch that you have by the thermostat is meant as a ventilation fan. Nobody knows what that switch is, but what that switch does by your thermostat is it turns on one of the exhaust fans upstairs.
It does, and I've always wondered what
that's why. So that in the winter time, or in a situation like what you described, you can turn that exhaust fan on, and that's going to get rid of that warm, moist air that's going to end up at the top of the house.
Okay.
It'll also help you air condition your house in the summertime too, because that warm, moist air goes up. You can turn that exhaust fan on. There you go, first one out of the house.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So taking care of mold really comes down to those 4 areas: is good ventilation, controlling the moisture level in the home, good housekeeping issues, and if you do see a little bit of mold, that you attack that relatively aggressively. So you either clean it, or if it's an area that you can remove, you might cut out that little piece of drywall, that type of thing.
Now, in a typical house, Dave, where's the top 3 places where you're almost guaranteed to see mold? Or where are the top 3 places where mold occur?
Well, I think that certainly bathrooms are going to be number 1.
Okay.
I certainly think that windows are going to be number 2,
Okay.
and basements are probably going to be number 3.
Okay.
And also, you know, in your fridge, you know, when you have the vegetables and that type of thing in the rod, or you know,
Yes.
you're going to find some
Yeah,
mold in
yeah,
the fridge. But
Yeah. Okay.
those would be the key areas.
And when you do an inspection for a house,
Yep.
all of this will be in a report. Will you be able to provide a report to the person who requested the inspection?
Yeah, so we do a written report, and certainly that would have pictures of the attic space, the basement space, coal cellars, any areas where typically there's mold issues, and we would certainly give some advice to a client that was
Okay.
having some mold issues as
Okay.
well.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, our time is up for today, but I'm sure our viewers have a lot more question about mold and prevention. If someone out there has a specific question or would want to use your services for a home inspection, how can they get in touch with you, Dave?
Well, they can just our name, david.wall@pillowtopost.com, and our website is pillowtopost.com/Oshawa. And again, you can reach us at Canada Origin Housing at their website under Indoor Air Quality Audits.
Excellent. Thank you for your time and thank you for your expertise. Thank you for watching this video, and please do not forget to subscribe. There will be more videos featuring Dave Wall in upcoming episodes. Until then, take care and have a nice day.